Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Welcome to the Backyard Professor Chess videos. First, let me sincerely say thank you. Thank you for all the wonderful welcome back messages, the love, the excitement of having me back. You are inspiring me to do better with my chess videos and to have more fun and to help you guys enjoy this blessed game more. So thank you sincerely. I'm overwhelmed. I don't deserve all this, but gosh, it's great. You guys are the greatest chess fans out there in the whole world. And I'm very grateful that you find my stuff helpful. Hopefully, I'm going to give you some good instruction. So now that I have sincerely thanked you, let's get it on. I have so much good chess stuff to share with you guys. I can't stand it. So here's what I'm going to do. The July 2012 Chess Life magazine. Ooh, my uplights are, sorry. Anyway, this isn't my permanent setup. I'm trying to get as much videos out for you guys because I want to let you know how much I appreciate your enthusiasm and welcome back. The Chess Life 2012. Bruce Pandolfini had an article where he demonstrated Isaac Kashdan was a grandmaster, and this occurred in 1932. He played a simultaneous exhibition, and he took the black pieces. And one of his opponents were two amateurs that were colluding together to play Isaac Kashdan. And this is their game. And I need to get to a critical part in the game, and then we will have some fun. I love how Pandolfini did this. So this is going to be the, at least according to Pandolfini, the French defense Tarrasch variation. Knight f3, knight f6, e3, e6. They're symmetrical in the opening at this point, and then it's over with the symmetry. Bishop d3, and Kashdan brings up c5, and then they go c3, and he brings out the knight to c6. He brings out the knight, bd2, bishop e7, right here. And then he castles, or I should say they castle. Then Kashdan castles, and they push e4. And the c-pawn takes the d-pawn here. He didn't attack the e-pawn, he attacked the d-pawn. So they pushed the pawn one more up to threaten the knight, right? And the knight bounces down to d7, and then c takes d4. Here, they pushed, Kashdan pushed f5, and they took it with an en passant, threatening the bishop, and the knight comes back. At this point, we're in the critical stage. Now, from this point on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain. I will show Kashdan's move, and then I will explain what he's thinking, and then I'll give you a few seconds. What I want you to do is get a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen and write down what you think White's next move is going to be. And we're going to do this for the rest of this game, because Pandolfini scores you on how well you are reading the position, how you are understanding the interrelationship between the pieces, what their targets are, and so on and so forth. And what this testing does is it helps reveal to you somewhat your chess playing strength. I scored a 58 on this, and according to Pandolfini, that scored in the 1800 to 1999 range. Woohoo! Yes! I scored higher than I expected. I was really excited about that. So this was fun. No, that's not your rating. It's just your rating for your understanding of this game. So this is the crucial step here. So my next question is, What do you think white's next move is? Write it down. White went to b3 with his knight. Now, if you got that move right, give yourself 5 points. We're going to add up all the points at the end of this video so that we can see where your rating was. And then you can tell me what you got down in the comments below the video. Right? So this was what they did, knight b3. Now, here is the rationale. White probably played this move to open up a path for his queen bishop. An excellent idea. That's a great diagonal. And it also shows that this knight is eyeing the c5 square because, quite frankly, that's a pretty decent outpost, isn't it? Yeah, you're already into black territory. You've got pretty good darn influence. So that's a great move. Yes, he's moved it twice in the opening, but it's still a decent move because he opens up for further development. So that is why knight went there. Bishop comes to d6. The idea here is Kashdan wants to advance that e-pawn. He wants the pawn right there on e5 because he needs more space to maneuver his pieces, right? So his plan, one way to be able to put that plan into effect, the knight here is protecting e5. But this knight here is also targeting e5, as is this pawn. So by moving the bishop here, he adds another piece to the e5 square. Excuse me. So that's the rationale behind that move. Now, what do you think white's going to do? Next, I'll give you a hint. He's not going to do that because that has nothing to do with the position. Okay, what white does is move a rook, but he puts it over there on e1. Again, the rationale is obvious because white is clamping down on that e5 square. He wants to discourage Kashdan from advancing that pawn, and it does so because now he has 1, 2, 3 pieces attacking that square. It will keep Kashdan cramped, so to speak, right? So that makes sense. If you guessed rook e1, give yourself another 5 points. Write that down. Kashdan responds, queen c7. Now this is interesting. Sometimes in openings, have you ever wondered, how come he put the queen where he put her? How come he moves a rook where he moves the rook? Why on earth did you move the knight there? I do all the time, right? It makes, I mean, the queen has a lot of places to go. The queen could go here, but she didn't. The queen went to here because it backs up the bishop, which backs up that square, which gives him a chance to advance that pawn. And now the queen move makes beautiful sense, doesn't it? Yeah, it really does. So that's nice. Where's the next move? Crap, almost gave it to you. It makes sense too. If you guessed queen to e2, give yourself 5 more points. Because now white is really declaring, look, I want e5. You aren't going to have e5, I am. So they're all fighting the rook, the queen, the pawn, the knight for e5. Why is white so concerned with that e5? Can you see why? Well, let's look. That is a really great outpost. That has a lot of influence. That makes sense, right? And it helps cramp black's position. It gives him more space, keeps black under control, and it's a whale of a jump-off point for a great attack, regardless of whether you go to the king side or the queen side. That is a great outpost. So that makes sense that they're fighting for that square. Okay? So he went queen e2. If you guessed that, give yourself 5 points. Kashdan goes bishop d7. Now the idea is to continue his development. It opens up the rooks connecting, right? So that's a good move. What do you think white is going to do now? It's kind of, it's getting to be a tough position. They are really getting going here. And they're both developing well. Material is even. Space is pretty even. So with that in mind, what should white do? White went to bishop d2. If you said that move, give yourself 5 points. This completes their development, and it clears c1 for the rook. Look at this. This really does make sense for him to go. Nothing's under attack. There's no pins. There's nothing like that. So by bringing this up, he gives the rook a chance to go here. And look at that. Open file. Highway into the enemy territory. That would be a great file for white to have. So now that completes the development. And you can see they're both really solid. And you can see, even though there hasn't been any hack and slash yet, there really is a serious battle going on for e5. That's a great game so far, yep. Now, he says if you saw the idea, if you got this, you got your points. But if you saw the idea of bishop to g5, then back down to h4, golly, and from h4 back down to g3, in order to change off the dark square bishops, give yourself a bonus point. Because that theme is available. Yeah, it takes 1, 2, 3 moves to do, though. That's true. But he wants you to be aware the idea is to change off his good bishop. That makes sense, right? Technically speaking, because the pawn is stuck on the dark, then the dark squared bishop is a bad bishop. Don't let that terminology goof you up. It has tremendous influence. So anyway, let's go on. Kashdan is bringing in his rooks. This is fabulous chess. And he's got a few variations. I'm not going to worry about the variations for now. There's some bonus points. It's not going to affect your score if you do or don't get them, though. It's okay. You can read the article, and maybe some other time I'll do the variation for you. What is white going to do at this point? So now we're seeing, now they're both developed, and now they're really trying to get to a position to where they can decide the outcome of e5. If you saw rook a1 to c1, give yourself 5 points. That is a very good pin on the knight to the queen. The reason why, and you probably already see this, this is one of the pieces fighting for this square. Well, by pinning it, you don't eliminate the piece, but you help minimize, you weaken, well, because it's the queen behind it, you eliminate him as a protector or a defender of that square. So that takes away a piece for this. So by moving, it's interesting, you can move the rook on the open file, pinning the knight, and you weaken black at the e5. And he's not even there yet. Very interesting. Excellent. So Kashdan drops down to c8. The idea here is he is anticipating an entry. At this point, because of the pin, and the white took away his extra ability to protect that square, he realizes he's not going to possess it. He would be a fool to put the pawn there now, because he would lose the square. So he realizes that. He says, okay, I lost that part of the battle. He is anticipating either this move, which would have hit the bishop had it stayed there, or he's anticipating this move, which is the square they have been fighting for. But is it time yet? Is it ready yet to hold that e5 square? So the question is, what does white play? And white does, in fact, take direct possession. If you saw that move, give yourself 5 points. By now, you should be getting some points built up, hopefully. It's not a crisis if you don't. I promise. We're having fun here. We're learning how to read the board and see what they're fighting for. So technically, that small part of the strategy is in white's favor. He does have more space. You can see it's feeling a little tight. The bishop, now that it's blockaded and the center is really truly closed, the pawns are on the white. This white bishop really is not very effective right now. He doesn't have power, right? It's a bad bishop. Look at both of white's bishops. Terrific influence that way, and terrific influence that way. So at this point, the white bishops are vastly superior to either one of Kashdan's bishops. That's an imbalance you need to be aware of, because it does influence what you will play through the game. So these kind of things we always want to look at, right? So, well, he now knows Queen b6. And you say, wait a sec. He was behind this bishop to help this square, and now it looks like he's abandoning that. However, there's a method to his logic. When the knight was here, he helped support the pawn. It's an isolated pawn, notice. He doesn't have any buddies on either side of him to put him in a pawn chain like these two. He's all by himself, so he needs support. And he had the support of the knight and the knight. When he moved up and occupied e5, it took away one of the supporters of the pawn that is blocking him in. So it makes beautiful sense that your next move is not this. That does not address the issue. The next move is not this. That does not address the issue. You can begin to see how you begin making less and less weaker moves and start addressing the issues on the board when you know how to read it, right? Isn't that nice? That's nice. By moving the queen here, he hits this pawn once, and he hits this pawn twice. And by moving the queen, he removes the pin of the knight. So he's accomplished 3 really good things in just one move. It's moves like that that make your game stronger. If he can undermine this pawn, then that undermines e5. That makes sense, to attack that pawn. So that's what he did. Queen b6. So, I've rambled on. What is white going to do? White does the logical thing again. Sometimes you've wondered in games, why did he move that bishop? Or why did he put the castle where he put it? This makes beautiful logical sense, because now he has reinforced that isolated pawn, which is blockading the center, which is supporting the outpost, which is cramping him. That's very important, not to let that structure fail. Nice. It's nice to see how it all comes together, right? If you did that, you get 5 points. Now, you're not going to get 5 points every time you guess a move, but all of these up to this point have been 5 points in case I missed one. So, now he goes a5. And he's saying, well, he has two supporters. Maybe I can chase that knight off and weaken this pawn. See, you have to do everything you can to fight for your space, or you can't maneuver right. He's stuck. There's nothing else he can do. His rooks can't do anything to help him. This bishop is horrible. It can't do anything to help him. So come over here and threaten the knight and get rid of it, and then that gives him a chance to attack that pawn. That's why he moved that A pawn at this time. It's wonderful to see how it coordinates, isn't it? I love that. That's awesome. So, with that said, what is white going to do? White goes knight c5. Now, take a look at that. They're playing a grandmaster, man. And that position is just gorgeous. That's mouthwatering. What an outpost. A supported pawn with two fantastic knight outposts. Vastly superior position. Much better space. That is good chess. If you guessed knight c5, you get 5 more points. Okay, now, I want you to notice too, the cramp. Look at how he is beginning to cramp him. That is really interesting. Okay, so queen comes back here to c7. He's not ready to yield the dark square bishop just yet. What is white going to do? That's the next question. And the answer is f4. He's going to support this knight. Why? Because at this point in the game, it's time to get rid of that horse. Look, you have two magnificent horses that can start coming together and doing some severe combination damages. You got to get rid of one of them. You have to. It's no option, right? You have to. If he takes the knight, and then the pawn takes the bishop, then the queen can take the pawn, and he gets a knight and a pawn, and he gets rid of the blockade. So it's really important to give that baby support. That's why the pawn move. That makes sense, doesn't it? That's great. Not this one, not this one. This one, because it's helping support. Now look at that cramp. It's just like a solid wall. He's keeping him at bay. He's actually cramming him back home. I love that. That is awesome. Well, queen comes over to e7 because there was some potential building combinations here. And he unpinned the knight. Yes, the knight is in the way, but all you have to do is take a pawn or take a pawn, and you unpin, you pin that knight again. So Kashdan says enough, and he moves the queen aside. Now, what is white going to do here? Make sure I get this right. Oh yeah. Okay, bishop b5. If you got that, you get 6 on your score. And now this poor knight is pinned to the rook. That poor knight, he's getting pricked with pins all night long, isn't he? So that's a good move. And now bishop takes the e5. It's time. Kashdan finally realizes, holy smoke, he is just coming non-stop at me. It's too strong. It's time. So he takes the knight. What is white's next move? F takes e5. Yeah, he could have taken it with D, but he took it with F. If you said F takes e5, you get 4 points. Notice also now, Kashdan does not have his dark squared bishop. Okay? That plays a role in this game. Can you see why? I know most of you can, but I'm going to say it anyway. Look at all the dark square weaknesses. The entire queen side dark squares are weak, meaning there's no pawns. The white squares are fine. The white squares are fine. The white squares are fine. But the dark square weakness is just magnificent. And Kashdan was forced to get rid of that knight. It was too strong. So now he doesn't have the dark squared bishop. This is really important in this game. Okay, and then shut up and move, dude. Knight d7 again. Okay, now the knight comes back because he wants to hit that. He's still got a knight and a knight hitting it, right? What is white supposed to do? What would you think he would do? Knight takes b7. He takes the pawn. If you said that, you get 6 on your score. Okay? He's undermining the power, the defense of this knight by taking that pawn. And if he does take with the bishop, then the bishop will take this knight, and then the bishop takes the bishop, and then the rook takes the bishop, and white wins the exchange. So that's why that was perfectly safe to take that pawn. Notice how everything is coordinating because you've got this open file, and you're controlling it. Good strategy right there. The imbalance is obvious. Yes, the open file, and he's got an open file on the king's side, but he can't get anything going on that. All of the action is over here, and it's starting to hurt black. Just something to notice. We're just kind of learning how to train ourselves to see this kind of stuff. So knight takes b7. Knight takes d4. Okay, here we go. Now, his knight is springing into action, and he is finally getting to where he is going to undermine that incredible blockade of white. It's time to attack it. No more, you just have to attack it. So now, with that in mind, what is white going to do? What would you do as white? And he says this is a desperado move of the knight. He's hurting, and so he's trying anything. White will do bishop takes d4. Now, look how white is just surrounding black. Not only is he corralling black, he's pushing them all over there in that corner. That is incredible. That is, I just want you to be aware of that. Okay? Really interesting. If you guessed bishop takes d4, you get 4 points. Kashdan now does take the knight. You have to. You got to keep. You're trying to keep the material even. And so, what does white do? White grabs that rook, and he goes, pow. Wow. He's still just encompassing black, isn't he? And he's threatening a power. He's threatening a piece, and he's pinned that knight again. Those poor knights, man. It's just, that's a powerful vice there. He's in his face. If you guessed that, you get a score of 5. So, he does the only thing he can. Really, the bishop, this doesn't help. That doesn't work. He can't go here and he can't go there. See, the bishop, because it's a bad bishop, has literally played no part in this entire game. Have you noticed that? It's like he doesn't have it. It's a liability. It's really important to know about bad bishops when your central pawns are locked. You try to exchange them off. If you're playing against it, let him keep it, because it's a liability. Okay, so bishop c8. What does white do? This is awesome. Bishop c5. He pins the queen to the rook. The knight is pinned to the queen, so it can't take the bishop, otherwise he loses the queen. And if the knight did that, even the queen, then the rook has to move. I mean, again, notice all of the pieces, keeping them in that corner. That is incredible chess. He's still coming forward. Bishop c5. If you got that, give yourself 5 points. Way to go. So, queen comes down to d8. You can't stay in front of that because the pinned piece is now attacked, and so you're going to lose that piece, right? So the queen has to dodge back. The queen has to get out of there, off the pin. So what does white do now? This is so beautiful what white does. It is incredible. Bishop d6. If you got this, you get 5 points. Look how cramped black has been this whole game and how systematically relentless white, one at a time, just keeps the pressure on. That is magnificent, man. And of course, he's threatening and now this pawn is permanent. This setup is permanent. Again, the central blockade. He has never lost that. And because of that, I need you to see this. Because he had that central blockade, he has been able to operate through that open file on the wing and completely dominate his opponent, who is a grandmaster. That's beautiful, beautiful chess. Bishop d6, I told you score 5. Rook f7. Black removes one of the threats, but there's nothing to be done about the other one. Rook e to see... Oh, I forgot to ask you what you thought next. What do you think they'll do next? I'll give you a hint. He moves it from rook e1 to c1. Yes, you're welcome, damn it. You get 5 free points. But really, truly, you have to be able to see that. I mean, that is so obvious that you've got to get on that open file with a double rook, right? So, yes, you're welcome. See, don't tell me that the Backyard Professor doesn't ever do you any favors. Okay, so now, what do you do? What do you do? Knight b6, and then bishop takes the rook, of course. Bishop takes the rook. How many times have I said he's still right here? Man, he is right in his face. Pinning everything, threatening everything, and winning the exchanges. Great chess. Just great chess. Oh, I forgot to ask you what he was going to do next. Give yourself 5 points if you saw that. Sorry, I'm trying to do this right, I promise. So, of course, queen's going to take e8. Dang him! That dirty rat! Okay, now what's white going to do? From this view, what's white going to do? You got doubled rooks. You got a queen over here that can potentially come and pin the rook. She can come this way or this way. So what do you think white does? If you guessed rook takes f7, you are the proud owner of 5 more points. Now look at that position. Holy cow. That is incredible. King takes f7, of course. And now, what do you have? What do you think white should do next? What do you think white did? Rook f1, check. Right? Of course. Give yourself 5 points if you saw that. Because at this point, black resigned. The game's over, obviously. I mean, really, truly, seriously. Now, let me show you just one line. He shows a few different lines, and you can pause it and look at them, but let me show you one line that is really, really quite remarkable. If going check, the king goes to g6. If he steps out, then queen comes up to g4. Check. And then king goes to h6, right? And then rook comes up here to f3. And you can see now that really there's nothing that can be done, right? Because he's going to bring his rook over and checkmate him, of course. So that's one line of reason why the grandmaster succumbed to two amateurs. So in my opinion, that was a really instruction-rich, fun game because it taught us how to read the board really good, how to understand some moves by the bishops, the knights, the queens, why they chose select squares because it supported their efforts toward other squares, right? So I love that game, and I've got a lot more stuff like this too, so for you. But for right now, let me say once again, thank you for the nice warm welcome back. I love being back. I'm going to give you lots of videos. We are going to have a great time together. And how did I used to close these? Well, be good, do well, have fun. Hey, I did! That's right. Do good. Let's see. Be good, do well, have fun, make lots of money, don't stay up late, eat well. I said eat well already. And we will see you in the next Backyard Professor Chess video.